Welcome to another edition of What the Fuck Happenings Here. Indian Mendham. Facepalm. Yes, it's just all too stupid. I even have to have this conversation with people. And then I have to live in this too stupid reality where, everything is a chore. So first, I made an hour video and then I didn't have the mic on. So then I had to make this copy of, I had to do it over again. So for another hour. And then, I go to make this video and I didn't properly hit the start button. I thought I did, but no, I hit the wrong button, I guess. And so, I'm halfway through the video and there's no video. It's like, oh, shit. So anyway, it's just, I don't know what to make out of that. I am having a crappy day, sort of, mostly. I didn't feel like making a video, and it was a really good video, the first video. I really liked it. And I was just disappointed. And I just said, okay, there's just an example of these silly little things, right? If something goes right, then you feel good. If something goes wrong, you feel bad, blah, blah, blah. It's all this chasing, not feeling bad. It's all so stupid. And a horrific price paid to have this stupid adventure of feeling good about silly crap that doesn't go horribly wrong. So that's all you're really doing, right? Oh, feel good because it didn't go horribly wrong. Not good enough. Oh, so far from good enough. So let's see what this, So the beginning is going to be, I think, me saying, oh, I already made this video, but especially, because I really didn't feel like making, so I didn't really feel like making a video, and blah, 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 and it was kind of struggle, but it was a really good video. Hashing of a video I did like 5 years ago. Alright, so so I was taking the phrases, a couple of good phrases I had spoken in my unintelligent design video, which was, it's not my video, the great Chai Cho guy compilation, the 5 minutes of music and images with my voiceover. Anyway, it's just well put together, nice creative piece of stuff. And I say things like more friction than function, and what's the other ones? I have to think of all this stuff. I am tired. Anyway, precious commodities being controlled by crude forces. Crude forces in control of precious commodities, however you want to phrase it. Really good phrases. So I had already, 5 years ago or whatever it was, made a video using, just talking about those phrases. But I was just saying there's something to feel good about, right? I accomplished the task of throwing some words together in a good phrase. And it's just, and that's really the charm of life, is the moments you get where you feel like, oh, I did my job today, I accomplished, I succeeded. And you're just trying to avoid those moments where you feel like you totally failed. And I wouldn't torture a rabbit for it. Somewhere that rabbit comes in. Lots of copies, and the copies got to all live. So it had to create this. So evolution is really the theme here and the subject. There's nothing else to talk about, really. And what you have are these pro-life typers are basically saying evolution is just fine. The process is fine. The way it culls is fine. It's not too brutal. It doesn't cost too much. It's not too expensive. It's just fine to molest and torment and torture zillions of juvenile organisms. So it's psycho killer they're defending, frankly. It's a mechanism run amok, frankly. So for humans a couple hundred years ago, you had to watch 10 of your kids die, for the one prize of watching one successfully get to maturation. Those kind of insane numbers. And for animals, it's 100 to 1, 1,000 to 1. And the real argument is hey, that's not defendable in any way. It's grotesque to slowly, brutally cull And so if you can't come up with a way of doing your natural selection before they hatch, just call them loser before they're hatched. Run a simulation and see who succeeds and fails ahead of time, and some other way, because this is too cruel and stupid to defend. Yeah, we didn't invent it. It's not our fault, but the fact that we didn't invent it doesn't mean we're not responsible for defending it. And that's all these people are doing. So these atheists who aren't supposed to believe in some fundamental purpose they're all defending a system that's just brutally stupid. I mean, it's brutally stupid, brutally unintelligent in the system design. He's a couple hundred years ago, 10 kids dead for one kid. There you go. And it has to have death in it. You have to have death built into it. So, there's arguments about the first life forms on Earth went through these cycles of mass extinction because they didn't have a mechanism to kill them. It wasn't built in, so predation was the only way. And if it didn't have enough predation, then they would grow exponentially, consume all the food, and create so much waste they got killed by their own waste. And that the life forms that we're actually related to, the ones that are, that are our genetic lineages, are the ones that were the poo eaters, the ones that evolved, changed to be able to eat the waste products of the organisms that did exist. And then eventually all of the organisms were under the pressure of having to build a mechanism that ensured death, because without ensuring death, it could just again escape its predation and overpopulate. So eventually you'd be genetically are constructed to age and die. It sucks. Okay, yes, there's no point in being created to be destroyed. I mean, it's just undoing whatever you did, and especially in the context of, you could argue, intelligent organisms like human beings, because they actually do build character over years of existence. We actually do change into better things with education and time, and all of that's squandered and wasted, and we have to start all over building our character. I'd also say the benefit of that is that, yes, it's easier to be pro-life if you have to go back to being stupid all the time. And you can start off stupid and never get smart. And so, yes, if you start off really dumb, which we do, you can stay really dumb. And so the pro-life philosophy can survive. But if we actually didn't die, and we actually did live lives, and we acquired more and more life experience, I don't see how any of that couldn't be humbling and tempering and cause you to wince a lot and feel the pain a lot and recognize that, what am I playing for? And I'm just playing for, I'm alive and I want to stay that way because dying doesn't look like any fun. Period. And there's not much other reason. I'm running from death, not to life. And I guess they'd say, well, that's narcissistic. If I think about what it would be like if I had to do that. Right, so I was just talking about, there's some article written that uses all this bullshit psychobabble language. You're Mesopotamian? No. I hate that I have to go try to find it again. Where the hell was it? I don't remember. Anyway, Methuselah? No, not Methuselah. Well, anyway, that you're mercenary, narcissistic, and psychopathic or something. yeah, and it's just, there's just jargon terminology, especially the narcissism one in the context of being anti-natalist is so funny, because it's obviously the natalist or the narcissist. They think they're worth it, and they think they're so worth it that it's worth making another version of them that's even, polluted, but it's a version anyway, they're the ones with the narcissism that they think their genetic code needs to get into the future. Their family, their traditions, they're the ones that are full of themselves. So happy to be fat, short, and stupid. Yeah, so that's just mocking the narcissism in the context of the actual reality, which is the best aren't doing the breeding. So it's not the best of show. It's the the dogs fucking in the parking lot. All the loser dogs. We're not evolving anymore. So that makes it even stupider that we're playing the game at all. There's no evolution. There's just devolution is the only pragmatic possibility, because the only people breeding are the dumbasses. Vegans are aware in the sense that they're aware of human exploitation of. So I was saying good things about vegans, but I was just pointing out, clarifying that even when people get a piece of something, they don't get the whole piece, but these pro-lifers they would shut the vegans up too. They would shut anyone up who's making any argument that is all depressing or sad. You're just not allowed to say anything that's saddening. A saddening truth. You can't speak a saddening truth. And that's how bad it's getting, because they have to. They're so desperate, and they have no ammunition. They're losing the argument. That's the absolute fact, right? So the reality is that anybody who graduates from high school probably isn't going to, the average is they won't procreate at a sufficient rate to sustain human population, because they're not buying the argument that living to change diapers and manipulate children is not the greatest thing in the world to be doing with your time. There's better things to do with your fucking time than managing a child's life. They don't want to be babysitters for free, okay, let alone at all. And you haven't been able to sell the stupid pro-life position. You can't sell it's the only thing to live for is doing God's work. Kind of whatever that is, graft and multiply. They're not buying it. You're losing. Fact. And so out of their desperation, they're going to try to suppress any kind of notion that's anything other than dogmatic pro-life bullshit. And these are atheists, some of these people doing this nonsense. People who know full well there is no fundamental purpose to our existence, and there's absolutely no reason to think we're, automatically functional and profitable. That it's profitable to have living things in the universe. They don't have any argument to make. They just accepted it as dogmatic mush. So far from preserving the dignity of the organisms getting ripped to pieces and getting infected and having maggots do this and all kinds of horrible... so again, I can't even go through it all, right? There's just so many horrible things happening and on such a huge, gigantic, horrible scale. And how can you possibly defend that price being paid? The biosphere is leaking, torture at this insane rate, and you're riding on that boat and justifying it and saying it's okay for me to run this engine. And I don't think you can't rationally defend that, because you're not worth it, and there's nothing you're doing that's worth it. And it's just such a huge, gigantic lie to pretend there's some reason for some rational person to think whatever it is you're selling is buyable, because you can't even make a product. All you have is your negative rhetoric, your implication of they're bad people, psychopathy. They have some psychopathy. That's my argument. It's not an argument. You have to explain why what they're saying is wrong. So explain to me why having a negative opinion of the function of evolution is incorrect. Yeah, good luck with that, jackass. And the brutality is beyond. I just said that. Yep, it is so bad. So I just even can't imagine how somebody could be a empathetic viewer of evolution, a vegan, antinatalist, ethicist, I mean ethicist most specifically, and be in any way Machiavellian, or have any notion of personal gain out of it. It's all a negative. You're going to sacrifice your own comfort in accepting the truth, and there's just no profit in it at all, except to honor what you're recognizing as an experience you don't want to have. And so that's the only part that's, I would argue, I'm a little dishonorable in my defense of the animal suffering, because I'm frankly recognizing it as a personal threat. I recognize that it could have been me. And that's the part that bothers me, is that it could have been me. And that's certainly reason for, at minimum, a pause in any sense of, well, let's keep doing this. Let's keep risking it, so eventually the dice are in your hands, when the shit hits the fan. The things that are going to happen, that are going to be part of the environment in which you succeed. And if you had to, live that horror of the... So if you had to endure the experience of living all the victims' lives and deaths, then maybe you'd have a little bit of this wince thing. You say, okay, yeah, I get it. I don't want to do that again. I don't want to die 100 times to live once. No, I don't want to do all that crap. Fuck that. I don't want to spend 100 years dying and 100 years living. Yeah. Their adventure, the story with all of the failure in it and all of the tragedy. You just have to recognize that most of the things that die are juvenile. So that means that the dying process is a much bigger part of their living experience. So for some organisms, it's 1 minute of being alive and 9 minutes of being killed. It really is that bad. To reabsorb new tragedy. To gain some reflection and some maturity. And we have to just keep doing it. So, again, if you had to live, the reality of all the crap that's happened, even if you had a 400 years of experience and all your dead wives and your dead kids and your dead, and all the stuff you had to see and watch and experience, I would think you would have winced enough to push your eyeball into your brain and die. That would be enough horror for you to say, no mas, no, let's not do this again. Yeah, it's the best they can do. But it doesn't even, there's not even, not even a, ow, ow, not even close. Yeah, so they can watch it and see, it's like Einstein writing about his first kid died of scarlet fever or some kind of bullshit as a baby, and you could just see he was so glib and let's just make another one, who cares? I mean, that was his sympathy towards his wife, was we'll try again, So obviously some people, ouch. And other people, you can't make an ouch. You can't. There's no empathy reflex. There's no notion. They think themselves so superior, and they think everybody else is like a bug, and they're just not gonna. Oh, what happens to bugs? Who cares? I'm important. Yeah, and these are the people calling other people narcissists. So it's really quite amazing how duplicitous. The hypocrisy is so malicious and overt. don't procreate sufficient to replace human population. And clearly, there's no indication that even wealth. So just making the argument that the real problem they have is they've already lost. They can't convince the world, even without the philosophy, even without them being, they can't even convince the people who don't wince too hard, okay, who don't find life very painful, to play procreation. So those people won't play it, even when they don't even have an opinion about it being a substantially dangerous and horrible. They just have some sense that it's a big responsibility and a terrible burden. And they can't even overcome that. They can't even make an argument to get over that. And here they are pretending that somehow this ideology is causing the problem, when what's causing the problem is you. Your stupidity, the fact that you think there's some purpose. That's the problem. Okay, your totem pole worshipping is the problem. Fact. School education, huge difference in how many kids they have. Just a fact. Yeah. So like I said, they've already lost the argument. Even without people having to do this wincing thing and feel their pain and all of that crap. And so obviously the ones who do, okay, think about it and feel the pain and are frightened by it, yeah, obviously they're going to be double anti-natalist. They're going to be even more aggressively concerned, and they're going to recognize too that it's an important thing for the human race, because the human race is the only thing that's going to stop it from happening over and over and over and over again. This insane price being paid for no viable product. There's nothing being produced but toxic stench. No, it's a lie. Your silver lining bullshit is just that. Bullshit. There's not going to be any redemption. There's not going to be any utopia in your heavens. There's not going to be any function to. There's nothing to redeem. There's nothing to compensate for the waste. It's just a fact. They're not going to. You can't make a rational argument. There's no rational argument defending this Holocaust that is the existence of sentient organisms. And these are people going to label somebody else a narcissist. They think they have the capacity to, right? Even that, the fact that they think they're genetically worth it is funny enough. But the fact that they think they're up to this task of organizing somebody else's life so meticulously that it'll all be okay, that they're gonna know the future and they're gonna protect and navigate perfectly. It's just so. What kind of ego do you have to think that you're going to be a sufficient parent? Our little wine and our grapes are perfectly. So the thing we live for is all these little things of just trying to get little things to work out. To have, little successful tasks in our lives, cleaning up little messes. And that's all we have is accomplishment. And it's so trivial when you measure the weight of the price paid for that little bit of gratification that you painted something nice, or you drew, or you wrote something nice, some trivial bullshit. Yes, just take a little rabbit and squeeze it to death. Because you're worth it. Your little feelings are worth it. So I use that analogy a couple of times. I mean, this, the idea like somehow it's rational for me to actually think that I'm worth it, that my best day, if I could live it again, it would be worth it. I would say, go ahead, take a nice little rabbit that's chewing some lettuce, perfectly not in a horrible condition, and torture it to death. Yeah, and that'll be worth it. And we know the price being paid is that times 1 million. I mean, that every bit of our existence is very expensive because the biosphere is constantly grinding them up, feeding your existence, making your food, vegan or not. Yeah. It's just all kinds of poor, selfish motivations. It doesn't have built into it, I must be a good thing. I must have good written on my tombstone. Yeah, the system doesn't have any notion of a plan. And it's just whatever works. And the only thing it's doing is replicating a molecule in the context where it has to kill them. And so it comes up with a culling plan that's just as bad as it gets, of this insane competition to engineer things with bigger fangs. And that's it. You know, it's all quite marginal. And the only real bliss you get, a warm bath, you know, a sneeze. You know, anyway. So yes, there's very little real positive, and most of it is just a grind and this mediocrity thing where you're a little better than you were 2 hours ago, but you're worse than you were 6 hours ago, and you're just sitting in some sort of condition that is... And, you know, I'd argue that I know my condition is lower than whatever your meme is. I think mine is probably lower than that. You know, just because, yes, my system, my physiology doesn't do comfortable very well. Me. Well, it can't make any sense to me. I can't see how you could possibly... I can't even imagine my best day. So I'm going to get to relive my best day tomorrow. So, made the argument already. Anyway, the real argument is that no, now you have to... Every time there's a gain over here, there's 100 things that lose over here. So I was just using the analogy that if you had a machine where, you know, you could gain something here, make it feel better, but then for every bit you made this one better, the other one, the B one, went down, that wouldn't work. Okay, it wouldn't be any profit in it, wouldn't be any reason to make it. And clearly under our circumstances, it's not a little gain here and a little degrade there. We know that it's 100 times more downs for every one of your little ups. Just the 10 dead siblings for you to succeed, you know, is evidence enough. And nature's even worse, you know, let loose on all these other organisms. The attrition numbers are literally insane. I mean, rats and mice, you know, 20, 30 dead for every one that gets to maturity. Broken. Great. You know, and just really... It never did anything like that, ever. Oh, it's about the cat dying, and, you know, it died more than once. But, yeah, one of the incidences, and it was just so difficult to experience its misery and its pain and its anguish and all of that. And, you know, it's winceable. Wince. Ouch. This crap, so they'll fall for anything, you know, and it's just so stupid. And so that's what you have to wish on the future, is really, really stupid, because only the really, really stupid are going to defend really, really, really bad cruelty. Yeah, you have to be really dumb to think that the price paid is worth it, and that somehow pragmatically that there's some possibility of an argument to defend the mass murder of, you know, juvenile organisms on an insanely massive, crazy scale. Most of them killed. as children. Most children are killed in the system. Yeah, and you're defending it. That's just fine. It's a good enough ratio. One surviving is all we need. One survivor. It doesn't matter how many others died. As long as one person survived. Alright, so, in summary. So the sort of the point I wanted to get to that I really didn't in either video, frankly, was that, you know, why contrive these arguments against something so obviously true? Okay, the fact that nature is not very efficient. Yeah, so again, this, and you're having this argument with, like I said, even atheists, you know, people who claim that they don't have some silly dogmatic fairy tale story to define their context or their view of what's happening in the biosphere on Earth. Then why? What's this incentive you have to defend this pro-life position when there's, again, it's the murder of children? I mean, it's just very hard to defend the murder of children for hokey pokey. Yeah, we did the hokey pokey and we turned ourselves around and it was all big fun. That's worth molesting a kid for, isn't it? Yeah, no, it isn't. Dating without destroying environments and, you know, ruining the life for other organisms, and, you know, mostly. Okay, so that again was the biology argument. The argument from why do we die is because the system requires it. And it's not a sophisticated enough system to come up with graceful exit. So it doesn't. And then we're too religious now to come up with graceful exit. So it doesn't happen. And it's all waste. And it's an insane waste of torture. And to have to be called a psychopathic, because I think wasting torture is as dumb as you can get, that's psychopathic thinking. And of course it's depressing and unsettling to live in a world where torture is gratuitously wasted. Why wouldn't that be a scary place to live? Words. And just acknowledge that. And then try to figure out if there really is anything good enough you're doing. Anything good enough humanity. I mean, fair thought. I mean, just give it some fair thought. I mean, do you really think you're worth it? Do you really think you're doing something the universe needs to have done? You're experiencing and adventuring. You know, would you torture something for it? I can't imagine saying yes. It's just, I can't. Alright, anyway, so enough of a video. So, anyway, till the next time and such and so forth and whatnot. Yes, that's the ending. Alright, so survived it. Sorry, I'm tired and blah, blah, blah. And, just, you know, could have been, this video could have been better if I wasn't for the first video trouble and the second video. Well, anyway. If I was functioning a little better, it could have been better. But anyway, the video itself isn't bad. It's not as good as the first version, but it's not bad. So anyway, till the next time and such and so forth and whatnot. Yeah, I guess it's enough. Yeah, pretty sure.